we basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what they're doing. Do you understand that?
Yeah, crazy times, crazy world we live in. And so, despite all of this, and despite some early hiccups, it seems that the ceasefire between Israel and Iran is holding. And it seems that Trump wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to capitalize on Israel's military success in Iran by bombing its nuclear sites, but he also wants to be seen as the shrewd deal maker who managed to broker a lasting ceasefire between those two sides. And so I think that if these strong words and these strong red lines that he appears to be drawing in the sand turn into actually consistent red lines, Israel will not cross them. And with Trump, we really don't know whether he really means it or if he's going to flip-flop. But I do think that if he remains consistent on placing those red lines around, particularly Israeli aggression, Israel won't cross it, and I don't think Iran will violate the ceasefire either. So that's good. But now, with the hostilities between Iran and Israel ostensibly over, I wanted to also remind us of the unbearable realities in the occupied Palestinian territories, and especially in the Gaza Strip. It's a horrible daily reality. We have hundreds of people, at least dozens of people dead every day since the start of the Israel-Iran war and dating to before that. So I wanted to highlight some of this reality. So this is a post I made on Blue Sky, but it's based on B'Tselem data from June 20th. And according to B'Tselem, since the start of the Israel-Iran war, again as of June 20th, at least 601 people were killed in Gaza, and of them 195 were hungry Gazans looking for food near or at the so-called aid distribution centers that were set up in the Gaza Strip by the joint U.S.-Israeli venture to distribute aid in the Strip. And we also have here the breakdown of how many were killed each day during the first 7 days of the Israel-Iran confrontation. And these are high numbers, staggeringly high numbers, even for the horrific standard that has been established over the last year and a half. So even for this bloody, deadly assault on the Gaza Strip, these are exceptionally high numbers. And so I wanted to also highlight, I mean, you might have heard about this, but I think what we don't often see is a report of from within. What does it look like? How do these people die? And 972 came out with this report with detailed descriptions from Gazan aid seekers that I wanted to highlight. I wanted to share some of their experiences here. So really they're describing horrific scenes of hungry Gazans, aware of the danger, aware of the massacres that are occurring near or at the aid distribution centers, but going there anyway, compelled by hunger. And scenes of Israeli shelling, tank fire, and artillery that appears indiscriminate. So here are some quotes. The Shaldan family had lived virtually without food for nearly 2 months due to Israel's blockade, crammed into a classroom turned shelter in eastern Gaza City. Their home, once nearby, was destroyed completely by an Israeli airstrike in January 2024. At around 1:30 a.m. on the night of June the 11th, the two brothers from the family joined dozens of starving Palestinians when they heard that trucks carrying flour would enter the strip. 2 hours later, they heard shouts of "the trucks are coming," followed immediately by the sound of Israeli artillery shelling. In the chaos of the crowd, the brothers got separated. Hamza, the older brother, managed to grab a 25-kilogram bag of flour, but when he returned to the agreed-upon spot, his brother wasn't there. His brother and around 15 others had tried to hide in tall grass when Israeli tanks opened fire on them, and in total 25 Palestinians were killed that morning waiting for aid trucks on Al-Rashid Street. So senseless violence. I wanted to highlight another quote here. People were being killed, but everyone kept running for flour. Elderly people, women, children, all just waiting for a chance at flour. Then, without warning, artillery shells began falling around them. People were being killed and wounded, but no one stopped. Everyone just kept running for the flour. So, I don't have the words to describe this, and I can't give a calm analysis of this. This is just senseless violence. The worst kind of violence that people unleash on other people, and it has to stop. And this report is from June 20th also, but this is still ongoing over the last 4 days since. So this is from today. Let me go to the top of the page. The Israeli army kills at least 79 in Gaza, including 50 waiting for aid. And going back down, the total number of Palestinians killed by Israel, according to this Middle East Eye report, while seeking food or other essentials, has risen to 516, with more than 3,799 wounded. And the official death toll in Gaza since October 7, 2023, has exceeded 56,000 for the first time. Today, with more than 130,000 wounded. According to this recent report, confirms the idea that actually the death toll is probably much higher than the official one, the 56,000 one. The title is a little bit misleading. This is a report authored by an Israeli professor, which uses some fancy analysis to point out a discrepancy between the number of people who are in the Strip and the number of people who should be in the Strip, according to pre-October 7th data, and there's a discrepancy of 377,000 people. Now, many of those people have managed to escape, mostly to Egypt, but I don't think there are 377,000 Palestinians in Egypt. The last I heard, there were 100,000, maybe a little more, but it does lend credence to the idea that the death toll in Gaza is probably much higher than the official 56,000 number, which is based on verified named casualties. And so if you account for people who are missing under the rubble, the death toll is likely much higher. I will link to all of these articles in the video description, but I will also link to the original report here by Yaakov Garb. I just wasn't able to open it because I think there's too many people trying to open it at the same time. So for now, this is a report about the report. And I think other than Gaza, which we should be focusing on, we should also not forget about how Israel has been deepening the occupation in the West Bank. So as the title says, with Iran war as pretext, Israel suffocates the West Bank. The army closed hundreds of gates to seal Palestinians inside towns and strand them on roads, proof of annexation in all but name. And I think this article gives a really good, concise background here. Closures and checkpoints have been the norm in the occupied territory in the West Bank for decades, becoming even more numerous and restrictive in the wake of October 7th. So I think this should be stressed, that the reality of occupation in the West Bank, and that includes road closures, that includes restrictions on movement, that includes nightly raids into people's homes, that includes creating conditions that are unbearable for Palestinians in rural areas, in Area C, to live in, so that they would move voluntarily, so that they would be concentrated in the West Bank's urban centers. Reality of settler violence. That reality dates back long before October 7th. That reality dates back decades, but it has exacerbated since October 7th. And as this article suggests, there's a danger that it will further exacerbate under the guise of the Israel-Iran war following Israel's escalation with Iran. So, as it says, after striking Iran, the army reduced Palestinians' movement to a near total standstill, sealing off towns and cities with iron gates, closing checkpoints between the West Bank and Jerusalem, and shutting down the Allenby border crossing with Jordan. So severe restrictions on movement. It goes on to say the UN now reports that many of the closures have been lifted, but with several checkpoints closed and new gates and roadblocks erected, Palestinian mobility remains highly curtailed. In East Jerusalem, too, rights groups have reported an escalation in restrictions and repression against Palestinians, including a total ban on worship at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And this article, I don't believe, goes into it, but the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in the old city of Jerusalem has also been closed over the last 12 days. And it also goes on to say the ease with which Israel was able to cut off virtually all movement in and out of Palestinian towns and cities, thanks to an apparatus of control that includes nearly 900 checkpoints and gates, highlights the extent of the occupation's footprint in the West Bank. So again, this point needs to be repeated again and again. This is an infrastructure of occupation that dates back decades, that's been accumulated, that's been building cumulatively over the last decade, since 1967. And it enables Israel to suddenly lock down the West Bank, to basically control the Palestinian population in the West Bank to a very high extent. And yeah, settler violence should also be highlighted. This is from Wafa, the Palestine news agency. This is their just latest updates page. So over the last 24 hours only, right, since noon yesterday, we're having, they use the word colonists, and you might know them better as settlers. Settlers fence off more land in northern Jordan Valley. Settlers renew incursion into Bedouin community west of Jericho. Settlers bulldoze agricultural land, destroy water wells south of Bethlehem. Settlers install 8 iron gates at entrances of agricultural roads south of Bethlehem. Again, this is a reality that predates October 7th, that goes back decades, but this frequency and this intensity is what's new. This is just over the last 24 hours. And what we've seen, again, even before October 7th, but even more so today, is the fact that this is done under the watchful eye of the Israeli army. More often than not, there are Israeli soldiers, as these attacks are happening, basically guarding the settlers, giving them a nod and a wink to continue these assaults. This is the reality that you might have seen in a movie like No Other Land, for example. And if you want to know more about, to see more proof of just how complicit the Israeli military is in these settler attacks, just go to B'Tselem's website and go under settler violence, and it's so well documented. This is a systematic thing, and it's just been exacerbating since October 7th. So I think that it's so important that we continue to pressure our elected representatives here in Canada, in the West, even in the United States, right? At the end of the day, the U.S. is the only one that's going to be able to fully restrict Israel by giving it a strong red line. And I don't have high hopes for President Trump, obviously, but this pressure campaign needs to continue. Not because the occupation is just illegal, but also because it's immoral. And there are small and slow victories that I think it's important to highlight. And most recently, the fact that Maersk, shipping giant Maersk, I hope I'm saying that right, cuts ties with companies operating in Israeli settlements. And this is the direct result of months of sustained pressure from pro-Palestine activists who have demanded the behemoth shipping and logistics company cut ties with companies profiting from Israel's occupation of Palestine. This is going to financially hurt. And it's a small step. It's only targeting Israeli settlers within, capital S settlers in the West Bank. But it's still a win. And this is the type of pressure that we need to sustain, especially now that the Israel-Iran war is over. Because this underlying sort of structural violence is ongoing. So thanks for watching. Again, the links will be in the description. And like, subscribe. It helps the channel grow. And see you in the next one.